This segment actually comes from one of our other previous segments as well, when we did the top 10 conspiracy theories. All right, so this is a segment about, do we live in a simulation? Do you like the Matrix background there?
Yeah. Clever.
Yeah, it is pretty clever. I had one that was moving, but then I couldn't figure out how to upload it, so you get the static one. So
you got this.
So this actually is one of my favorite conspiracy theories, and I honestly think of it less of a conspiracy theory and more of a thought experiment, is the way I like to think about it. And I'm not saying I believe this, but I'm not saying I don't believe it either. I'm like, I'm just interested in talking about it. And the reason I'm bringing it back is because when we did the conspiracy theory segment, I swear, Brittany, you did too, but both of you girls said on a scale of 1 to 10, y'all potentially believing this was a 0. And I didn't have enough time to lay out the evidence of what's out there, but now we have the time. So,
all right, let's do it.
I'm going to start with the argument of the super genius philosopher Nick Bostrom, who you guys have probably not heard of. He's Swedish. He actually wrote a really interesting kind of paper and series about simulation theory almost 20 years ago. And he wrote this paragraph that said, one of the 3 statements I'm about to tell you has to be true. All right, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, the first statement is, humans never get the technology to create a simulated reality, okay?
Okay.
I'm gonna go through them 3. I'm gonna go through all 3 and then we're gonna go back, all right? So the first one is, humans never get the technology to create a simulated reality, all right?
Okay.
The second one is, humans get the technology to create simulated reality, but they choose not to. Maybe it's ethics or some other reason, but we get the technology and just decide, nah, we're not gonna do this. Or 3, there is a high probability that we live in a simulation. Now, this super genius philosopher says that one of those 3 things has to be true, all right?
I have a question.
Automatically, let's go.
Okay, so is he saying that the first 2 that are right now, we as people have the ability to create another simulated reality?
So this happened actually
not to?
20 years ago. So technology back then was a far cry from where it is now.
Because we have Sims, where I have my little town that I created with my Sim person, and
You're about to make
Sims.
You're about to make my argument for me here.
so we do have that, right? But that's us creating the simulated reality, not us being the simulated reality.
Yeah.
The rabbit hole gets deep very quickly. All right, so I want to go through these one by one. So according to this philosopher, one of those 3 things has to be true. So let's go through them. First off, will humans ever develop the technology to create a lifelike simulation? It does require an enormous amount of massive computing, beyond what we have now, but something that I think is within reach. And then you also have to be able to create AIs that can simulate consciousness. Okay, so when he wrote this, everyone was like, this is ridiculous, we're never gonna get there. Now, fast forward 20 years, I mean, look at something like Grand Theft Auto 5, which is now 10 years old. That simulates an entire city, right? And the graphics have gotten to the point where it starts to blur what reality is. So all I'm saying is that.
But it wasn't like that in the 80s.
No, of course not.
So.
But the question is,
how would we be so advanced that we would be so real?
Well, I mean, the question he's basically saying is, do we think that humans will ever pull this off or not? And that's the question I posed to you guys. Do you
in the future?
Yeah, it does not necessarily now. Okay. I'm saying, do you think sometime in the future, maybe 10, 50, 100, 500 years in the future, that we will have the technology to simulate, say, an entire world? We can simulate a city right now.
I think we could.
Okay, now do you think that we'll be able to have an AI or an NPC that can simulate consciousness and think that it's alive? I mean,
yes.
Okay, so
I hope not.
Do we think we should?
Look
No.
at ChatGPT. I mean,
yeah.
Obviously you can tell you're talking to ChatGPT when you're talking to it, but for all intents and purposes, it acts like a person, like a really smart person.
It does.
And think about where we were just 5 years ago, where we didn't have anything like that. So I don't know. I think that maybe Brendan, you're the only one that has an answer. I mean, I think that humans will have this technology. I think we're kind of on the cusp of it, to be honest.
I do too, honestly.
Okay, so we're saying that.
We're all on the same page.
So we're saying that this has to be false, because the thing says humans never get the technology.
Yeah.
And we're saying false.
We're saying false.
Okay, the next one. humans do get the technology but choose not to use it. Now, I'm going to go right out and say that we are not the most moral, like conscientious, like things running around the planet. Like to think that we would not do this, to me, is just the most ludicrous thing ever. Do you agree?
I agree.
Like we're going to create simulations.
I'm going to say I don't think we should, but I think that
we already do.
We're
it.
a selfish human race.
Okay, so that goes to, if we've said 1 and 2 are false, according to this philosopher,
one of these is real.
One of these has to be true. And so let me go to the third one, the high probability that we live in a simulation. The reason he says that is, if we do create that technology where we can create a lifelike simulation, then they're not going to make one, they're going to make hundreds, thousands, millions, billions. So then his point was, then what is the chance that our reality is the first one?
I don't like that.
I know it's uncomfortable, right?
It is.
Okay, so
I don't know why I keep thinking of this. What is the headset thing game?
Virtual reality.
I keep thinking of that whenever you say this, and I'm like...
I've used virtual reality, and the technology is getting pretty good. It's not like Matrixy or Ready Player One level yet, but it ain't far. Like I have a pretty good setup, and like when I put on my VR,
Apple Vision, isn't that a thing now?
I think it is. I have like one of the high tech ones. Yeah. I mean, you guys are like starting to see that like this is like.
But like in my mind, you know, coming from like a Christian mindset, like, you know, this is like the end times, you know, where, you know, the return of Christ, where we did something we shouldn't have done and the world is done.
Maybe.
And
I mean, who knows?
Then he comes back. Like that's in my mind. It wouldn't be that we'd have multiple and they would succeed. It would be that it would implode, and that would be where we shouldn't have crossed that line, because that's not our decision to make. You know, God made the earth in 7 days.
We're already doing it. Like we're just not doing it on the scale of like civilizations. I mean, it's funny because like there was a game out like this last year, and it was just the size of a city. But each of the little characters was a separate AI entity, and they were programmed to think that they were real. And you could go into the game and tell them that they were not real, and a lot of them would like just be like, you're like crazy, and would walk away. And then some would like get freaked out when you tried to like show them that they were not real. And I'm just sitting here thinking like these guys, they're already creating a city that thinks it's real. Like this is not a far cry. Okay, now I will want to go back to Bostrom. He obviously did not prove that we live in a simulation. There's nothing he said in any form or fashion proves that whatsoever. But what he did do is he made it philosophically difficult to deny that it's a possibility. So the next question, you know, okay, say just for argument's sake, sure, we live in a simulation. Why? Like, right? Why would someone make the simulation? Because if you're gonna entertain the idea that exists, why would you do it? Well, the answers are fairly obvious. Like the first one comes is research. You know, you set up a scenario with a civilization and you let it play out and you see what happens. So I mean that's an easy one. Entertainment would be the other one. You know, in an instance,
somebody's bored.
Right. So like for example, like you know how I sit there and play Grand Theft Auto and the whole city's doing their thing. Like I mean maybe I'm doing my thing while someone is playing this simulation. I don't know. Entertainment's another one. The other one would be necessity. If like there was some issue where like the world wasn't inhabitable and like civilization went to a digital life to not just go crazy because the world wasn't habitable. Like I mean that is another potential. I mean we were talking about
Paradise. Are you watching Paradise?
No. Is that good?
You should watch Paradise.
Okay.
They create an underground like world that simulates like the sun going down and like vitamin D and like everything.
Oh, I think I have seen that.
Yeah.
I have seen.
I mean, that's the closest in my mind that I think that would work, because otherwise, what is the point? Like, if the human race is gone and you're the one that created it, it's like, well, I don't get to see it.
You would think it probably people would have the technology to like zip in and out of it, like with the virtual reality, like they just pop into the simulation. Okay, so one thing that really interests me about simulation theory is, again, no one's ever been able to prove in any form or fashion that this is real. But what is interesting is that simulation theory does explain or offer an explanation to a lot of phenomenon that are considered either weird or unexplainable. And so this is where, like, when you start to think about these things, it starts to get into your mind, and then you can't stop thinking about it. All right, so the first one, and you guys probably have never heard of this, and if you have, hats off, because this is kind of like a real techie science nerd thing. The double slit experiment. So the double slit experiment basically is where a machine throws electrons at a sheet of metal, and there's 2 slits. And the expectation is that the electrons, when they go through that slit, they hit the back panel, and they are the shape of the slit. Okay, that's what should happen. Okay. But what actually happens is when they fire those electrons, when they go through, they turn into a wave. But if you actually monitor it, like you view it with like some sort of like detection machine, it is not a wave, it actually becomes the slits. And it's a phenomenon that's not really explainable. It's like a quantum physics type conundrum where when they fire electrons at these double slits, they expect them to be on the wall as the slits, but they form a wave. But if you actually have something that's like looking at them, then they don't. And so people have been trying to figure out why this happens. It's basically an unexplainable phenomenon. Well, of course, the simulation theory people say it's because it's not being observed, it's not being rendered in the simulation. It's kind of the Schrodinger's cat thing, if you're familiar with Schrodinger's cat. Schrodinger's cat's another thought experiment where there's a cat in a box, and if the cat does one thing, it gets poisoned. But if it doesn't do that thing, then it's alive. And Schrodinger said the cat is both alive and dead until it's observed. And it's another physics thing where there is this kind of insinuation that things act differently if they're not being watched. All right, and people can't figure out why this would be a thing. Well, simulation theory has a clear explanation. If nobody's watching, then the simulation's not going to make it happen because it takes up resources, right? So the double slit experiment, and that is one thing it explains. Multiverse theory is another. Have you guys heard of multiverse theory?
Yes.
Okay.
A little bit.
I was going to say
I don't fully understand it, but
the electrons thing kind of. I didn't eat lunch today, so I'm a little. Brain fog. The
electron thing is confusing. I had to look at that. I've looked at that before, but I've had to look like, okay, wait, what now? Like it's supposed to be this,
what are we doing?
But the take home from the double slit is things react differently when they're not being watched or they're not being measured. That shouldn't happen. Like in reality, it should always be the same, but it's not, and that's kind of a weird phenomenon. The multiverse theory basically is the theory that there are millions of Earths, and each one might be slightly different. Like in another multiverse, I might be a lawyer, or, you might be a doctor, or whatever. It's like everything is basically the same but slightly different. And it's like, well, why would the multiverse exist, or how would it exist? No one can answer that, but simulation theory can. Again, they're not going to make one simulation. They're going to make hundreds. They're going to make thousands. And so then it becomes like, oh, okay. Well, simulation theory explains why multiverse theory might be a thing. The Mandela effect, one of my favorites. We talked about Mandela.
We talked about
the Berenstain Bears, the monocle on the Monopoly guy.
Febreze.
What was the Febreze one? I don't remember.
It has 1 E instead of 2 E's.
Does it?
Yeah.
I don't remember that one. Same
it
thing.
Is one.
It's basically Mandela effect, for those who don't know, is
Yeah.
where a large group of people remember something differently than what reality is. Mm-hmm. And so, of course, this can be explained with psychological things. There are psychological phenomena that explain why the Mandela effect might be happening. But also it could be simulation theory if there's some sort of update or reset, and then like all the data doesn't get set across. And then some programs...
So funny. I can't stop laughing.
I'm serious.
I know, it's just wild.
It just explains this. And then other ones like reincarnation and former life belief. If people believe in reincarnation or former lives, how could that be a thing? Well, simulation theory easily explains it. If one of us dies, they're not just going to destroy the program, they're going to recycle it. And so it may have like imprints of memories from its previous run through the simulation. Deja vu is another one. Like if like something happens, you're like, man, this actually just really happened. If for some reason the system got reset and it got reloaded, someone may have the phenomenon of like they're experiencing something for the second time.
What about people who have like said that they have died and come back to life, and what they saw?
Who knows? I don't know if simulation theory has an explanation for that.
Yeah, we should find that out. That's interesting, though.
Talk about what they see when they die. Yeah, we can do a whole segment on that. I
Yeah.
love like the conspiracy theories. Right up my alley, baby. I can talk about them all day.
Sorry.
So again, there is no scientific evidence for this whatsoever. It's just when you think about it in the terms of Nick Bostrom, it's like, okay, he's actually kind of right, although it may be awkward to think about, as Brenna said. And then you say, okay, well, maybe I'll entertain this idea. And then you start to see, wow, it actually explains, it is a answer to some unexplained phenomenon that are out there. You can see why a lot of people think about it. There's some very, very smart, intelligent people that really, I'm not saying that they're out there saying we live in a simulation, but they're like, this is really a possibility. Elon Musk has said this a few times. A lot of physicists have said, hey, this is a real thing. I actually ran this through both Grok and ChatGPT. And I said, look, I'm trying to get you to make your best guess of what is the chance that we live in a simulation. And I threw in all the, the reasons, the data. And they both came up with the same answer. It was 30 to 40%.
What's Claude? Is Claude?
Claude is,
I've been seeing a lot of Claude on X, and I was wondering what Claude is.
Claude is the AI that's put on by, is it Google?
I don't know.
I thought that was Gemini.
Oh, it is Gemini.
Gemini is, but I've been seeing a lot about Claude, and I'm like,
I haven't heard of that one actually.
I've heard of Claude. I just don't know who makes it.
Okay.
I'm really kind of a ChatGPT nerd, only because I've been with it since the beginning. And the other thing I always like to ask for the thought experiment is what if one day we find out we are in a simulation? Does it matter? I mean, is our life any less important? I mean, we have families, we have jobs, we have emotions. I'd be like, I don't know, what would happen if you found out you live in a simulation? Would you
so basically, you're telling me I live in a Disney movie, where
you might.
they control the end of my plot.
I'm not saying that you do. I'm saying
no, but that's the way I think about it. I'm well, maybe I'm
it's
okay
an
with the Disney
interesting
movie.
thing to think about. It's funny, and I'll talk to people about it, and I'll always talk to people oh, I believe this. I'm I'm trying to recruit followers, and just to kind of, I don't say mess with them, but just to get them to think. And then I had a lot of people, they'll come back yeah, I've been thinking about what you said. Yeah, it's weird. Now that you say that,
Well, I mean, as I told you at the beginning.
Dude, it's the simulation messing with you.
I don't know.
That's what me and my friends do. We always say if something happens, the simulation messing with you.
Yeah, glitching.
Blame it on the
glitch in
simulation.
system.
Thanks, simulation.
We have a couple
what do you
comments
think?
too.
Oh, we have some comments? Oh, bring them on.
Rob said, "What about choice and reason?" And then we have one that says, "Wow, wide topics covered here. LOL." We're kind of branching out to a lot,
yeah, we don't always do the
It's
the
fun,
pop
though, to
culture
see
one.
where
I like
it
the pop
goes.
culture ones too. I really do. They're a lot of fun. About choice and reason. I don't know. I'm not saying I'm the expert on simulation theory, but
why not?
I mean, I would say that
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm learning.
I've actually thought about doing this myself. I've thought about creating my own ChatGPT version that try to make one that really believes it's real, or program it to act like it's real.
But I think it always isn't ChatGPT always going to go toward what you want from them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean it's
So
programmed.
it may not be real though, because it's going to be doing
But at what
Bruce
point?
wants to do.
At a point, what's the difference? If you
I mean,
tell
that's
it,
true.
if you tell it I want you to act like you're real and not break character. I mean, I don't know, what's the difference?
That's true. That's true.
It kind of hurts your head when you think about it.
It really does. I feel like I want to just be surface-based. I don't want to think too hard.
Well, unfortunately, I don't think we'll
I
be
took
able to.
thermodynamics a really long time ago, and I feel like I just need to leave all that in the past. That's why when you started talking about electrons, I was like, I really need to lock in here, but I'm not sure.
I mean, I should just have said, hey, this says that it's more about the observation and things are really different. When you start talking about electrons, people's eyes just kind of glass over.
Oh gosh,
You're
I mean,
just
I was
"Wait,
really trying. I was
electrons?"
like, please don't look like you're an idiot.
What?